Hello, my name is Jodee Dietzenbach with Pioneer Law Office, and this is the second in a series of videos on Social Security applications and Social Security disability insurance benefits. While these videos are intended to be just short instructional videos, they are not intended to be legal advice. The best place for legal advice is from an attorney. So we recommend if you have a claim you want help with and you want some legal advice, give us a call. We will give you a free case analysis. And as for me, my name is Jodee, and the phone number is 563-583-9101, and it'll be down here on the bottom of the screen. Today is the second in a series of videos. If you haven't watched the first video on who can apply for Social Security benefits and kind of the basics of the program, I encourage you to watch that first. That video kind of tells you all the things you need to get ready and have available before you start this initial application process. There are several different ways you can file an application for Social Security disability benefits. So I kind of talked about that in my last video, but I think that's probably where I'll start today. So I'm going to share my screen here so you can see Social Security's website here. So this is Social Security's website, www.ssa.gov. And this has a lot of good information on how to apply, on the information that you need to apply, and what you have to provide to Social Security in conjunction with your application for benefits. So we're going to click on this disability little option here. And as we went over in the last video, this page has a lot of information about the things you need to gather before you apply. We're going to assume you have all that stuff in front of you, and we're going to go ahead and click apply for disability. I'm going to show you probably just the first page here on the online process, because they are checking, as you are doing this application, they are checking your information with information that they have on file, just to see if what you're putting in is as accurate as possible. So I'm not going to be able to file an actual application without putting in actual, Social Security numbers and things. I'm certainly not going to do that, but I can kind of just show you how to get started. This is where you go to apply for benefits. You have to provide truthful statements. You have to provide all information requested. I'm just going to show you. Now it's going to give you this, make sure you know what you're doing first before you get ready. Make sure you meet the requirements, and there's a link here. Gather the information you need. You want to sign up for My Social Security if you haven't done that already. And then once you have gone through all these things, then you'll be ready to start a new application. So it's going to ask who is completing the application. If you're doing it for yourself, click yourself. If not, then I'm helping someone who's not with me. And then this is just the first screen, and this is the type of information they're going to be asking for: name, Social Security number, date of birth. And they're going to be asking questions related to disability. During the last 14 months, has the applicant been unable to work because of illness, injuries, or conditions that have lasted or are expected to last at least 12 months? As we discussed in that last video, that's part of the legal definition for disability. So they are trying to screen out people that aren't going to qualify for benefits. I'm not going to go any further within the online process here, but you would just continue this, and you would be able to save it as you go, and then you would be able to return through it through My Social Security, which you should have set up that account in preparation for this. I am now going to go back to the main screen, and I'm going to show you another way to apply and kind of go through some of the additional information that they will ask you for. You can actually apply on paper still. I think Social Security will try to discourage you from doing it that way. And I would probably discourage you from doing it that way if you were a client of mine or a prospective client of mine, just because of deadlines and things like that. If you are mailing in an application, they're going to assume the date that your case starts, or the application date is the date that they receive it at Social Security. So if you mail it, it's going to take longer. If you do it online, it's the day you hit accept or submit on that application. So that takes generally less time than waiting for the mail. But I'm showing you this because some people don't have access to the internet, and there may be someone that is close to you that you want to help them get their application started, but you're not able to take your computer to wherever they're at and get the application going online. So this is a way you could at least start the application, get it into Social Security, and then they could fill in the blanks by usually setting up an appointment over the phone. So if you scroll down here, and you can get this through the menu too that I just showed, or this menu up here, but I'm going to show you where it is on this front page. Scroll down to the bottom, and up here is this link called Forms. This is a list of all of Social Security's up-to-date available forms. What we're going to do is we're going to go all the way down. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. You want to scroll down past all these, and we're looking for SSA 16, Application for Disability Insurance Benefits. So when you click on this, it's going to take you to a paper application for disability insurance benefits. So if you were online, they would be asking these, page by page, they'd be popping up. So, you'd enter them in and then click next. This, you can actually sit down by yourself or with someone else that you're helping and go through a form, but it's going to ask you for the same types of information. And if you see, it's going through the same questions that we got on that initial landing page for the online application. It's going to ask you date of birth. It's going to ask you about the type of public records that may be available. Social Security will independently verify this information. At number 9 here, it starts coming in with the questions about the health problems. So when do you believe your condition became severe enough to keep you from working, even if you have never worked? Have you ever filed an application for benefits before? Any military service, dates of service? They're going to ask you questions about marriages and what the spouse's or ex-spouse's name was. This is so that they can look to see if you may qualify for benefits under someone else's Social Security earnings. So then it's going to ask you questions about dependent children. This is because some claimants may qualify, their children may qualify for, may be eligible for benefits based on the person's earnings. So they want to make sure that they have that information in case you get approved. Then your kids get a little bit of money every month too, based on your earnings. They're going to ask about self-employment. And then it's going to ask you for the names and addresses of your employers. So then it asks you details about that work. It's going to ask you about additional types of benefits or public disability benefits you have filed or intend to file. It's going to ask if you receive any money for an employer on or after the date that you said you became unable to work. Then there's a question here about sick pay, vacation pay, or other special pay. Other special pay may be a 401k payout or some other type of benefit that your employer just pays you cash instead of whatever benefit you would have gotten. And here's some more questions about dependents, dependent children, dependent parents. And then it's going to ask a question about being unable to work before age 22 because of an illness, injury, or condition, and having a parent who is receiving either retirement or disability benefits. This is to screen for a very specific type of adult child disability benefit Finally, they're going to ask, you're making all these statements under penalty of perjury. So that's a very serious thing. You want to make sure that everything's correct. You want it to be as accurate as possible. So down here at the bottom, they're going to ask for your signature, a telephone number where you can be called during the day. Make sure this is correct because they will be calling to get updated information, to ask you questions about your case, to get a list of medical providers so they can help you get medical records for your case. And make sure that you do contact them if your phone number changes. They're also going to ask for direct deposit information so that if you do get approved, they can put the money directly in your account. They're going to want you to actually sign it out by hand rather than doing an electronic signature. Even if you do the online application, generally they're going to have you send in a separate form that is the claimant's actual handwritten signature, just to verify that they actually wanted to, and they are testing under penalty of perjury that those things are true and correct. This last page, if you mail it in, they're going to send this back to you or send you some additional information on how to complete your claim. In addition to this form, they are also going to ask for authorization to disclose information to the Social Security Administration. And these will be attached to the online form. So you'll get done with that form and then it's going to ask you to fill out this. This is the 827. It's basically a medical release. This is going to allow Social Security to contact your healthcare providers and get your medical records so that they can determine whether you meet the medical eligibility requirements. You have to sign this and you have to have a witness sign it. You do have to complete one of these along with the initial application. After the 827, they're going to ask you to complete this disability report adult. Again, this is like the contact information about the disabled person. They're going to ask for a contact other than your doctors of someone that they can someone Social Security can contact about your case. Generally, what they're going to do is they're going to send that person some additional forms and ask them questions about your limitations and your health problems as well. Generally, it helps if it's someone close to you that kind of knows what your limitations are, like a friend or a close friend or a family member that sees you daily or weekly, that knows the kinds of things that you're going through. They're going to want you to list all your physical or mental conditions that limit your ability to work. So if you need, again, if you need more space, go to section 11, remarks on the last page. Are you currently working? Have you stopped working? Why? They're going to ask you questions about your work activity, your education and training, the job history, and they're also going to ask you what your job requirements were, both physical and mental, at your past jobs. Not necessarily what you could do, but what those jobs required. A lot of people will leave their work because they can't do it anymore because of their health conditions. Social Security at this point is interested in what those jobs were requiring you to do, not necessarily what you couldn't do. So you want to make sure you read these instructions carefully. And then section 7 is your medications. Put a list of your medications and your doctor and the reason for your medication. You want to make sure you do that as accurately as possible. And if you need more spaces than this, then they have you put them in the remarks. Medical treatment, any additional medical treatment or future appointments. And that includes like hospital, urgent care, chiropractors, physical therapy, anything that, you want them to review, and you are required to notify Social Security of anything that tends to show whether or not you're disabled. You got to make sure they know about everything. Medical treatment, same kind of thing. Make sure they have all of your office, clinic, outpatient visits, your dates of treatment, first and last dates of treatment, overnight hospital stays. Each of those healthcare providers that you listed up here, they're going to ask you to break each one of those down and all the treatment dates for those. They're also going to ask for any kind of tests that were done, because sometimes the tests are not kept in the same records as the doctor's office. And they give you a lot of pages to go through all of your medical providers. And if you need additional ones, you can include those in a separate sheet. Other medical information. Does anyone else have medical information about your physical and mental conditions, including emotional and learning problems? Or are you scheduled to see anyone else? This may be workers' compensation, voc rehab, insurance companies. It could also be things like a school testing that was done in the course of school. I know a lot of times I'll have clients that have not had any kind of neurological testing or cognitive testing since they were a kid. And so sometimes we'll request testing that was done when they were in school. So if there's anything like that that you can think of, put the name of the organization and their information and kind of explain the situation here. Now, this next section is only if you are already receiving SSI. I'm going to assume that people watching this video are not already receiving SSI. And then here we are, section 11, remarks. Any of that other stuff that you need to elaborate on can go in here. The other form is this work history report. And this is, again, the instructions are there up front. Basically, they're just asking about the last work that you've done in the worst work that you've done in the last 15 years before you became unable to work. Job title, type of business, and the dates you worked. And then it's going to go through each job title and ask you specifics about that job. What did you have to do? And in this section, you want to put what the job required you to do, not what you could have actually done on that job. A lot of times people will leave their jobs because they're not able to do the lifting or the standing or the complex calculations or things that are required for the job anymore because their health has deteriorated. These questions are asking about what you were required to do for the job, not whether or not you could continue to do those things now. So make sure you read the directions on this and describe what you were required to do, what the job description told you to do. Again, it's going to give you a sheet for each job. Go through as many as you need to. And then again, section 3 is just remarks. If you need to explain anything, you can do that here. They will also send you a function report. Now, a function report is where you get to talk about all of your health problems and how they affect you. So they don't want you to leave answers blank. So if you need to, write none or does not apply or don't know or whatever, but make sure you try to complete it. Again, you are making these statements under penalty of perjury. So follow the instructions. So it's going to ask information about your living situation, the types of illnesses, injuries, or conditions that limit your ability to work, information about daily activities, about personal care, about who prepares meals, house and yard work, getting around, mobility, shopping, money, hobbies and interests, social activities, and information about your abilities. And those are all check boxes, and you can explain what you mean or explain, your limitations down below. So just go through this one and answer everything. And then it's also going to ask you about the name of medication and the side effects that you have. Just as a general statement, side effects are any effect from your medications that your medications are not intended to have. Medications are prescribed to help with some type of condition that you have, but sometimes you get things that your medication cause or effects that your medications have on you that are not great, but it's still better, but you're still taking the medication for whatever condition it is. For example, if I take a medication for my heart, it might give me headaches, or it might give me a stomach ache. A headache or a stomach ache is not an intended effect of the medication, so that would be a side effect. There are some people who are asked about side effects of medication and they say, oh, I don't have any side effects of medication. And later they're asked again about the problems with your medications. And they say, oh yeah, it gives me a stomach ache, gives me a headache, I can't sleep, it makes me sleep too much. Those are side effects. So you want to explain the side effects that you have. Again, it has a section for remarks, so you can explain anything you need to, and then information about, just contact information for the person completing the form. Okay, so I think those are all of the things that you have to fill out. Again, if you do the online application, it's going to give you the correct forms you need to fill out based on what you put in the application. So it's a little bit easier in that all of those forms are going to be together in one place. There is another way you can file an application. I'm going to go back to the main site if it'll let me. You can apply using those phones. You can apply with your local office. Right now, the local offices are closed because of a national pandemic. So you won't be able to just walk into your local Social Security office right now and start an application. But what you can do is you can call the 800 number Monday through Friday to apply by phone. Generally, what you're going to do is you're going to call that number and you're going to either have someone, they're going to set up an appointment with you to do an application where someone from Social Security will read those questions to you over the phone, and then they'll input your information into Social Security's computer and start that application immediately. And then they will send you what other additional paperwork like that 827 and the work history report and the disability report, the function report. Those will all come to you in the mail and you'll have to send those back. So you can call, you can apply online, or you can use the paper forms. And I think that kind of sums it up. As far as the documents, you will have to supply documents to Social Security. They are not setting up appointments for people to come into the office to do initial applications and drop off documents. However, you should be able to mail your documents through regular mail, or our local field office here in town is allowing people to come to the office in order to drop off documents. They have a special drop box just inside the door that if you knock on the door and explain that you have documents to drop off, they will allow you to come into a small area in the entryway of Social Security to drop your documents in a drop box. I assume there's similar setups at other field offices, although I can't speak to that. So that's the process. Generally, what happens after you apply, Social Security will contact you, usually in a couple of ways. Generally, they're going to call and set up a telephone appointment with you to ask you any additional questions about your application and to verify that you actually filled it out. They will also send you any additional paperwork that they need. Once they have all their information, they're going to go out and start gathering anything else that they need to make a determination in your case. That might be medical records, that might be sending you out for a medical evaluation from one of their doctors. Once they have all of that information, they're going to evaluate your case. That process can take a few months. Once they have decided, they will send you a written notice in the mail explaining whether or not you have been approved. You can go on My Social Security, and I think that is right here. So if you have a claim that's pending, you can go and log into My Social Security right here, and they will kind of give you a generalized status on where your claim is and what they're doing. And generally, you're going to get a written notice in the mail, though, if you have been approved or denied. And then the notice will tell you, if you've been denied, the notice will tell you your deadlines for appeal. And so that's, how long you have to get that appeal in. And that's very important, because if you don't appeal on time, then the whole claim just goes away. They assume you have abandoned your claim. It will also have instructions on how to appeal your claim. And I'm going to go through that, how to do appeals online, in probably another video. It's not going to come out right away, but I'll try to get that out in the next couple of weeks. For now, I hope this video has helped you. And again, the best way to get guidance through this process, which, I mean, this part of the process is usually probably the simplest part. It is pretty complicated, and there's a lot of information that you have to provide to Social Security, but it just gets more complicated as you go through the system, and that's where we can come in and help. We are very familiar with the system and what you need to do in order to prove a Social Security case. So we can help you stay one step ahead in providing Social Security what they need to make it easier for them to approve your case. So if you feel like you need assistance from an attorney, give us a call. We do help people with initial applications. Generally, if we think it's something that you can handle on your own, we're going to tell you that and kind of explain what you need to know to do that. So if you feel like you want assistance with your Social Security case, or if you want a free case evaluation, give us a call. Our phone number is 563-583-9101, and ask for me. My name is Jodee. So thanks, and have a great day.